My name is John Jagsney, and today we're going to be talking about how to make a simple object like a board game token, texture it in Substance Painter, and then bring it into Unreal Engine and set up those materials. Now, this is part 3 of my board game pieces series. If you missed out how to model something simple like this or how to set up the color map, check out part 1 and 2. But if you know all of that information, whether it be the modeling or the developing of the color map in Photoshop and After Effects, then you are ready for part 3, which is diving into Substance Painter and then Unreal Engine. Let's go. All right, we're moving on and getting ready to bring this into Substance Painter, but before we go any further, I want to double check this really quick. So you don't have to do this next step if you just want the colors on this material, but I want to bring this to the next level. So what we're going to do is go open the UV color information that we just made in After Effects or Photoshop, whatever you used, and make a material really quick. Drag this in, drag it on our object, and we can see that we have a two-sided object. And if we go to our main object mode, model mode, hit R, we can see that we can flip and turn and animate this just fine. Awesome. Now, I want to bring this to the next level. So let's bring this into Substance Painter, and we can do some fun things with this. So I'll hit Start, find my Substance Painter, and we can delete that color object. All right, so Substance Painter, if you don't know, it's a way you can make Photoshop-like files for 3D objects. It is one of the things that I'm very excited about in 2023 to continue learning, and there are some really cool tips and tricks. So the first thing that we have to do is go back to Cinema 4D or whatever 3D suite of your choice, go to File, Export Object As, and export an FBX or an OBJ. Doesn't matter. So first what we have to do is make sure that there's no errors. Save this wherever you want. I always save an FBX file. We'll call this circle token high poly. All right. So now with Substance Painter open, we can go to File, New, and then we can click on Select. We're going to go to that circle token that we just opened, and we can import that. I like working in 4096 by 4096. It just makes big material, so if you get up nice and close, it has enough definition. Everything else you don't need to touch. Don't click on UV auto unwrap or anything because we've already done that. Click OK, and it's going to open up your object. How cool. Now what we need to do is bring in just one of those materials that we just made. So we're going to go to our Elements folder, UVs, and Circle Tiles. We'll drag just one of them in. Does not matter which one. So I'll bring this in, and whenever you bring in an object into Substance Painter, it's going to ask you, how do you want to save it? Now, generally speaking, Substance Painter likes squares. So make sure that whatever aspect ratio image you're working with, it has to be a square for Substance Painter to behave correctly. There might be some workarounds, but just generally speaking, you want it to be a square. So we're going to set this as a texture, and then we're going to import our resources to our project. Now, I'm working with the Unreal 4 project file template, but you can use whatever you want. So we're going to click Import. And then what we can see here in our window is that we have a bunch of options in our layer section. We're going to add a fill layer. So that's this little paint bucket sign. Drop that in, and it's going to just make a base layer. So if we zoom out on both sides, and if we hold Alt and left click, we can circle around our object. If we Alt and middle click, we can move our object around. And if we Alt and right click, we can zoom in and out. I'm going to take this new object that I just imported, and if you can't find that, you can go to the top tab here, Project, and it'll show you all the things that are imported into this project. We're going to drag this image onto our base color of the new fill layer that we just made. And hey, there is our object. And it's looking like a token. Sweet. But here's the really cool part about Substance Painter. If you go to the Substance Painter website, which looks like this, there are so many pre-made materials that you will never ever have to rebuild a material again, assuming you know the basic workflow of connecting nodes and images into 3D textures. So I know that I want to use some paper and some cardboard. So you can just go up to the tab and search whatever you want. So I found a bunch of papers, and I like this photography paper one. You can use whatever one you want. And then you can also search up cardboard. And we can set the types to material. We can see that we have cardboard side, which is exactly what I want. So I've already downloaded these, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my Elements folder, text, and I can see that I have these .sbsr files, Substance Painter files. So I'm going to just drag this into my Substance Painter project, drag it over the Assets section, and it's going to ask you where do you want to import it into this project. Hit import. Now before you go any further, we're going to hit Control S and save this as Circle Token 001. Cool. So with this in our scene now, we're going to first drag our photo paper under the fill layer. Always name your layer, so we'll call this fill layer the color. Now with the color, we can actually turn off our different material types. So I only want the color from this fill, so we can turn off everything else. Now for the photography paper, I know that a base token has a very subtle amount of texture. So we're going to set the paper roughness to pretty high because it's not very reflective. It's pretty matte, but the grain intensity, I'm going to bring it down. So it's not too much, but it's just very subtle. Same thing with the wrinkle intensity. I'm just going to add just a touch, just like that. And if I change the roughness, we can see that it has a different effect with the lighting. I want to keep it pretty high though. I don't want it to be super matte, but super reflective either. A nice middle ground texture is good for me. So now we have our color done, but now we want to handle the sides. Now we can see here that there's a little edge right here that I don't like. We're going to fix that right now. So first what we're going to do is we're going to drag the cardboard in on top of everything. And we can see, hey, look, there's the cardboard. Now, we only want the sides to be happening, so we're going to rotate this. So if we go to the right side of the Substance Painter frame, we can see that we have our transform of this. So we can rotate this 90 degrees. And because this is so small, this cardboard paper is so small, we're going to just crunch this down super tiny. Like super tiny, because no one is ever going to be looking at this detail but us. So we're just going to make sure we do a good job with it. So now it's projecting over everything, which is what we don't want. First, what we're going to do is we're going to right click on our new layer of the cardboard layer and click on Add Black Mask. And it's just like Photoshop, where now we can't see it because there's a black mask. But if we right click on that black mask and we go to Add Paint, now what we can do is we can paint on that mask and we can paint our object in. But there's one downside to this, and that is we don't want to go along these edges and just deal with this. I just want it to be perfect in the same way that I want to follow these polygons. Effectively, that's what we're trying to do. Well, fortunately, there is a polygon brush in Substance Painter. So if you remember, in the UV section part of this, we separated these sides pretty far away from the rest of the geometry. So then we could do this. Make a box. Hey, look. There's our object. And it works perfectly. So now we can export this and bring it into our 3D software of choice. Now, from here, we're going to hit Control-Shift-E. And that's going to bring up our export settings. So from here, I'm using the Unreal Engine 4 base template because I'm bringing this into Unreal. But from the output template, you can select anything you want. There's a redshift material, there's standard PBR, there's keyshot, there's lots of things that you could do. I want the Unreal system though, so I'm going to keep it as Unreal, keep this as a PNG in 8-bit, That's fine for me. We're going to go to our output directory. Make sure we save this somewhere. And then I'm going to go to our UVs. Call this circle tile. And we are now going to first save the settings so we know where it's going to save in the future. Hit Control-Shift-E again and hit export. So now if we go to our folder, bring our folder over here, circle tile, we can see that we have our color material. Now because I'm working with Unreal, we're done with Cinema or Blender, whatever you're using. I'm going to bring this into Unreal and finish off the tutorial. So let's go there. All right, we're almost done. Let's bring this into Unreal now. So I have my folder here with the FBX, the high poly circle token right here. Let's drag this in to any folder that you have in your Unreal project. If you've never used Unreal before, check out one of these tutorials, links in the description as well for more of the basics. But now we want to just double check our objects. Let's bring in our token into our scene. Let's zero it out right there. Drag it up, and we can see that, hey, look, there it is. We have the token. And then what we can do is go to our contents, materials, text, circle token, tutorial. I just like organizing my folders like this, and I know I'm going fast, but basically put things in folders so you know where everything belongs. You're going to go to wherever you save that UV from Substance Painter, and you're going to drag all of these materials in. So now what we can do is take this color and drag it onto our token, and if we can see, we can rotate our token, and there it is. We got the thing. So now what we can do is double click on that material because we have to do a couple things. We want to add the rest of that detail that we just had. So we take this normal and this funky looking material here, and we're going to drag this into our material node editor. Now this blue one, that's your normal map, so you can just plug that straight into the normal, and there you go. Now this funky material here is a sort of workaround for Unreal Engine to reduce the amount of stuff that you need. So we're taking all of the respective channels and plugging them into certain things. So the first one is our red channel, the R, and it's kind of hard to remember. So I just kind of remember the like a sequence of letters. So RA, I want to plug in my R to my ambient occlusion. Then I want to plug in my G to my roughness, my green channel, and then my blue channel I want to plug into the metallic. So the way I remember this is just the sequence of letters. R-A, G-R-B-M. Trying to find an acronym for that. So if anyone has a good acronym for remembering that, by all means, that's just how I remember it. So we can hit save on the keyboard. And then we can close that. We can see that we have that nice little texture on our object, and we got that nice little cardboard material on the edge. So it looks more like a token from a board game. So that's it. This was a long little series, but I hope you enjoyed it. There's a lot of things that we went into, and I hope you learned something. If you did, let me know in the comment section down below. Hit me up with comments, questions, concerns, whatever else. And until next time, my name is John Jags, and I implore you to eat 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, and you'll make some gains. Goodbye, my friends. Bye.